What's up guys, this is Coaster Zet and I have another countdown. This is the top 10 coasters at Hersheypark. I did not get a chance to ride all the coasters on this list. I missed out on the Sidewinder credit, but I've ridden another boomerang, so I'm just going to take that into account. So without further ado, let's get started with the countdown. Number 10 is the GCI Woody Wildcat. This is a fun ride, but the thing I don't like about it is that it isn't that smooth. There is some roughness to it. I didn't find the layout to be as amazing as some people say. Some people say it has a good layout and a lot of potential, but I think it would be good if RMC just came in and did its work here, because they have two GCI Woodies and they're like right beside each other. And I'd say Lightning Racer is better than Wildcat, so it'd be good if RMC did it, but it's still a fun ride. Number 9 is the Wild Mouse, and I'm somebody who enjoys a good Wild Mouse coaster. I think they're really fun, and this is a good family coaster. Even though it's just your typical Wild Mouse, I find it to be really fun. I like the probably my favorite part of the ride is something that not all the Wild Mouses have. It has an airtime moment after. It has that first drop, and then it turns, and then it has the airtime moment after the drop. So that's really fun. You get some good airtime on there. That was really fun. But it's just your typical Wild Mouse, so that's why it's not getting any higher. Number 8 is the Lightning Racer, and some of you may be surprised about where I've placed this coaster, saying it should go higher, but I didn't feel that it was that great of a ride. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still very fun. I thought it was very intense, and it's very cool how it has that dueling aspect to it, but I wasn't blown away by it. I think I must have had some high expectations for it because I've heard great things about it, but I didn't think it was all that amazing. I did ride in the back row, which some people say is not as good, but I'd still say that it's fun, but not something that would blow you away. Number 7 is the Comet, the out-and-back wooden coaster. This is a fun classic. You get some decent airtime. It's pretty smooth for being so old. The only thing that's a little rough is if you sit in the back seat and after the drop, but the back seat after that is worth it because you get more airtime. It's pretty fun, and I like that it's a decently long ride, and it's got a pretty good layout. I like how it goes out, comes back, and then goes back around. It's more like a double out and back than just a single out and back. So yeah, Comet's a pretty fun ride. Number 6 is the SooperDooperLooper. This was the first looping coaster on the East Coast, and it's pretty intense. It's a good coaster for people who have never experienced the loop before, because there's just one. It's kind of intense. The loop is very forceful, and the helixes at the end, it's pretty fun. It's cool how it kind of goes out a little bit back in the woods. And I rode this kind of at twilight or something, or dusk, before it got dark, and when we went in that tunnel, I could not see anything. This is a really fun coaster. It's a great family coaster, and it's something that kids will enjoy, and coaster enthusiasts will like too, and adults. Number 5 is the Sidewinder. This is the one coaster I did not get to ride because it was closed the day I went, but I've ridden another boomerang, and just based off that boomerang, it was pretty fun. And I'm guessing that this one will be smoother because the one I rode is one that is at a boardwalk park and uses aerodynamics trains. But I've heard that this is one of the better boomerangs, and I think boomerangs are pretty fun. I've only ridden one, so that I may change my opinion once I've ridden a lot more, but I believe it's a fun ride, and I think if I rode it, it would go here on my list. Number 4 is the Great Bear, the B&M invert. And this is an interesting B&M invert. It's definitely not your typical one. First off, there's that helix right after the lift hill. That is so much fun. And then you go into a sort of sideways drop into a vertical loop, and then an Immelman, both of which are very fun elements, and then into an awesome 0G roll. Then you have a corkscrew still sort of towards the end for a total of 4 inversions. And I did feel that there was a little bit of headbanging towards the end of the ride, especially where the corkscrew was. But it's overall pretty smooth, and it's a very fun B&M invert. Number 3 is SkyRush. And people might be thinking, oh, this deserves to be number 1. And I thought that it probably wasn't number 1, but this is still one incredible coaster. The intensity is out of this world. It has some good airtime. That first drop is crazy. You go flying out of your seat. That first turn is so intense. I think I almost grayed out a little bit or something on it. Not on the turn, but on the coaster. I like how it has the wing seats. That's pretty cool. It adds a whole new element to it. I only got to ride this coaster twice, but I rode in the wing seat both times, so it might have taken away from the ride a little bit if I had ridden in the middle. I didn't like because I didn't ride in the middle. I didn't like the restraints that much. That's a common complaint with this coaster. They were definitely got tighter as the ride went along, and on the brake run you're almost in agony with the restraints. But despite the restraint problem, this is an awesome coaster. That lift hill takes you up so fast, and this is just an incredible coaster. But because Hersheypark has so many other good coasters, this is only coming in at number 3. Number 2 is Farenheit. This coaster is awesome. It has a vertical lift hill, beyond vertical drop, 6 inversions, including an Immelman and dive loop back to back. Let's see, the first one is the dive loop and then the Immelman. And it has a cobra roll and a huge double corkscrew, and then it has intensity, and of course that airtime has 1 airtime hill, and that is just so fun. You get so much good airtime. When you go up the lift hill, that's such a weird feeling that how you're going up, and then that beyond vertical drop is amazing. The dive loop and Immelman back to back are very intense. They just keep going, and then the cobra roll's fun. I like the double corkscrew. I only got to ride this coaster once, but when I rode it in the front row. Another thing that is also a problem with this coaster, is you can't pick your seats. So you're assigned to a row. So I just got lucky and got to ride in the front row. That's the same thing with SkyRush, except you can wait for the front row in a separate line. But enough about SkyRush. It was a little bit jerky, but I would definitely not say rough. No way was this coaster rough. It was very fun, very smooth. Very good Intamin coaster, and one of my personal favorites. And number 1 is Storm Runner. Oh wow, what an amazing coaster. First up, that launch. That launch is amazing. It launches you from 0 to 72 miles per hour in 2 seconds. It launches you so fast. That launch is so great, and that top hat is so fun. And you get some good airtime. Then you go down a vertical drop on the top hat, which you'll feel like you're gonna fly out. Then into an Immelman type inversion that I believe is Cobra Loop, and that's pretty fun. Then you go up and get some airtime after that, and then you go into a roll, and then into a flying snake dive. On the roll, you get some hang time, which is fun, and the flying snake dive is pretty cool too. And then you have a near miss element as you go. You feel like, oh no, the monorail's gonna cut off my head. Then you pull up out of that, and you get a little bit of airtime as you hit the brakes. Super short ride, but super amazing. Pretty intense. Fantastic coaster. It's just amazing, and this is why Storm Runner is the #1 coaster at Hersheypark.